Lachlan Henderson. Do you remember what it was like to be a teenager? Feeling misunderstood, not heard, and overwhelmed? COVID or no COVID, it isn't easy. The purpose of the Cube is to give people like me, an ordinary teen, a voice, a place, an opportunity. And it is needed now more than ever. Without support from people like you, we have one less way of connecting in this already disconnected world. Please, support our show so that teenagers everywhere can see all sides of the Cube. Become a sponsor or advertiser today. Thank you.
You can support the Cube by purchasing commercial spots during our show, become an individual sponsor, or even be a season title sponsor. You can make a big difference in the lives of our teens. Email advertising at ktsmaz.com or call 602-699-6271. Thank you. Welcome to theCUBE, right here on ktsmaz.com. My name is Bob Cooper, and I'm the moderator for theCUBE. And today I'm joined by Tristan Peterson Steiner. He is a social worker and a good friend of mine for some time. Tristan, thank you for joining us. Social media and the internet have completely changed how teenagers communicate and gather information. Today, society is exploring topics it has avoided for generations. The world is facing new issues that are playing out every day on the news. And regardless of what your opinions are on any of this, it is happening. And it has an impact on the mental health of our teenagers. Today's show is not a judgment of anyone's beliefs or opinions. Our show is about perspective. Our panel, some of who have struggled with mental health challenges, are going to share their experiences and their perspectives. Before we can ever have a discussion on solutions, we have to start with understanding, which is why I invite you to join us for the next hour right here on theCUBE.
Hi, this is Doug with AC Doctors, and this is another testimonial of one of our satisfied customers.
We reached out to AC Doctors because our air had gone just warm, I guess. It wasn't cooling as we had liked. I feel like I don't have to worry that what they say is the issue or what they're going to fix is not accurate. I know that when they tell me something's wrong and they're going to fix it, that's what's wrong. They're not trying to pull one over on me. They have really good quality work. When they come to service our units, we usually don't have an issue throughout the year. And they're very clean about what they do, and their service people are nice and friendly and kind. I feel comfortable having them in my home. I trust AC Doctors, and so should you.
We want you to find out for yourselves. Give us a call or find us on our website at theacdoctors.com.
Welcome back to theCUBE here on ktsmaz.com. Today we're talking about mental health. So we're going to start off with just asking our panelists here, what has an impact on your mental health? Who'd like to start?
Probably relationships, like my different relationships in my life with friends, family, just kind of like in general. Like I think like the way that like, I guess like people like view me can definitely like impact, or like how I feel like somebody views me definitely like impacts like how I feel about myself and like my self-esteem in like a certain moment.
I would say relationships and my expectations for myself.
Okay.
I was going to say like schoolwork or an over amount of pressure or work that I have to complete can affect my mental health.
I agree with what Mitra said. I think the amount of work that I have is definitely proportional to maybe the amount of stress that I have.
I think kind of along those lines too, but in terms of, I like getting things done with other people. I like being able to do something in a community environment. And that's something that's really important with my mental health, is being able to be held accountable and be with other people to do something.
I think mine is overthinking or thinking about the past.
Yeah, I feel like I can definitely relate to that. Or like just like my mindset in like a certain like given moment. Like I feel like sometimes like I can feel super happy with like where I am at life, and then like I can feel like super confident, and then like 10 minutes later like something could happen with like a friend or something, or like again like get like assigned like something new on like my Google Classroom and get like stressed out about it. I think that like just like something like as small as that can really just like trigger it. Just like feeling down, like getting like a negative mindset.
So several of you mentioned schoolwork. So can we dig a little deeper into that? That seems like that's pretty unanimous. Can have a big impact on your mental health. So Mitra, what is it specifically, or can you say?
I think usually for me, the thing that I will overthink about is I don't normally feel like I fit into the box of like school or like how people are telling me things should be done. So it's like I have a conflicting of like my own views and like artistry versus what I know I have to complete. And sometimes I want to overshoot for something that I think will be really cool, but I don't really have the time, and then I get stressed because of that.
Okay.
I know when I was in school, mine was because I was homeschooled for a while. So starting college, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be so behind because like I've been homeschooled. So I'm like, I don't get the classroom setting. Like I didn't get any of that. And going into that was like really overwhelming. Like having to be around people. I've never had like social anxiety, but sitting so close to someone and being in a room full of people made me like so scared. I hated it, but yeah, that was probably mine.
So let me ask then, prior to going into college, tell us a little bit about your social experiences with large groups or anything like that.
I mean, I'm an athlete, so I was in athletics, so that was kind of like my social exposure, I guess you could say. And then of course I had a job, and I did normal things. It's just I didn't go to school. But my school wasn't really stressful for me. I was very laid back, so. For me, it wasn't that stressful. Mine really has never been the actual school itself being stressful, just like either the people or, yeah, it's never actually been the school, I feel like.
That's funny because it's like the opposite for me. I feel like I get the most out of being in an environment with, so like being social is so important for me, and then school is what stresses me out. Sort of what Mitra was saying with, balancing, kind of wanting to be your own boss, but you can't really. Not being your own boss, but balancing work and extracurricular work.
I think for me, like, I feel like the social part of school kind of bounces off the academic part of school. Like, I just feel like I get, like, really stressed out at school when, like, there's, like, a lot of assignments coming at you at once, and, like, you don't feel like you have enough time to, like, get everything done and, like, maintain good grades, as well as keep up with your social life, as well as keep up with your extracurricular life, and just kind of, like, all of those different components all at once can be really stressful and, like, overwhelming. And I think, personally, I just had a really toxic environment at my old school. Just like with like the people, just like the relationship wasn't good. So that also made school like really stressful. It's not like I didn't know like what I kind of had to like mentally prepare myself for, like walking in.
I think I mentioned in the first episode that the environment of school is really toxic to me. And I think touching on what Kylie said, I think the people make it toxic. I also, as I said, the expectations I hold for myself, like the self-talk, the future, like the idea that I have to pass and like failure is not an option, really affects me.
Yeah, that was scary too. And I think like a little bit because I was homeschooled, like for instance, like presentations, never had to do one of those in my life. And then I went to college and I had to do one. And I remember like sweating and shaking and being so scared. I was like, oh my goodness, like everyone's going to be looking at me. And I was terrified. And then I ended up having to get people to do it with me because I couldn't do it.
That's like crazy because like I feel like I honestly just like grew up like so like different. Like I've probably been doing like book reports and like stuff where I have to get up in front of my entire class since like kindergarten. So that's like so weird to like hear like somebody else's like kind of like just like different view of like homeschool.
So that's not doesn't cause you any stress to do that?
Personally, no. I don't get like stage fright very easily. Like I can if I'm in like a show and it's like opening night or whatever, and then you're like going out there, like butterflies are like, yeah, for sure. But I think with like school projects, like I love getting up in front of people and like doing stuff. Like I think the creativity aspect like really helps me to like kind of like maintain balance at school. Yeah, I think the biggest stress thing for me with school is just like a bunch of assignments like all coming at you at once, and just like again like feeling like there's not enough like time to get everything done. Like everything's coming at you like all at once and you're like buried.
You want to say?
Yeah, well, I wanted to go back to what Lachlan said because I thought it was really interesting that you were talking about like the pressure to be successful or whatever, not to fail or things like that. Does anybody else like share in that pressure? And if so, like how do you feel like that affects how you feel about like school and stuff like that?
That's funny you bring that up because I was going to ask the same thing about, you know, if we feel like it's inappropriate to fail or I don't know. I think that especially with schools, we've kind of been taught that it's not okay to be wrong or to fail and we always have to be right. But I think that failure is such a good thing for growth as a human being. But no, there's definitely a pressure to be successful. And I think it's also a personal thing too. You know, we all have personal goals and ambitions, but I don't know, there's pressure from parents and teachers and whoever.
Yeah, I'm a very future-oriented person. So the idea that one decision I make in freshman year could affect what college I go to and what I do when I'm older scares me so much.
Yeah, that's how I used to be. Because I skipped a grade and a half, so I was already ahead. So I had this expectation, you know, I was a 12-year-old in high school, and I was just like constant straight A's. I was going to be a doctor. It was going to be great. I had this whole life plan. Everybody knew it too. They were like, oh, Kylie's going to be a neurosurgeon. And then I remember closer to the beginning of senior year, I had been like, oh no, this is getting rough. Like, I don't think I want to do this, but I just kept doing it because that was the expectation that was held up. And then when I got into college, I finally was like, you know what, this is not for me. And now I am just gone. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm less stressed than having the expectation on me for sure.
So what do you do to help cope with that?
Well, my therapist always says to take it like one day at a time. Like those words are so meaningless to me. Like they're supposed to mean something, but it just like does not help me. But I do try to like, it's the self-talk. Like everything you tell yourself, what you put out there is what you'll receive. And so what you tell yourself, your brain is like the powerhouse of your body. So I just try to say like, you're fine. It's going to be fine if you don't get this done in the next 10 minutes. Because like, I'm not a procrastinator. So if I wait like a minute to do something, I feel like I'm procrastinating. Because I just have such a high expectation.
I am the exact opposite. I am such a big procrastinator. If I can put something off, I will put it off. And it is like my biggest like thing that I need to work on. And when I get stressed out, I sleep. I like cope sleep. Like if something's bothering me, I'll just sleep it off. And just like hope that when I wake up in the morning, it's not there anymore, which is so bad. And I definitely need to work on that. But yeah, that's honestly what I do.
So what do you think makes you procrastinate?
I think just like the stress of being buried and like nothing that I do is ever going to help me get caught up. Like I feel like I'm just like getting behind like in life, if that like kind of makes sense. And then just like it's like a constant like fight to like always like finally be like free of like everything that's like kind of bothering you like all at once, if that like makes sense.
I think the subject of talking about like pressure put on by teachers or parents is interesting for me because I've thought about how I think the pressure that we feel from those people can sometimes be internalized, and it's not really pressure they're putting on you, but it's a pressure that you think, and then you kind of like think to yourself. And so I think the best thing for me is almost like overthinking why I'm overthinking. And then I can then I can like, sometimes you have to give your minute to be like insane in your head. And then you just kind of have to be like, I'm kind of making a big deal out of nothing, and I have the tools and the skill to help me move forward. So I think that helps.
So you have to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
For me, I just worked it off, not like worked it off. I was a swimmer, so I swam it off. Or I went on a run, and I not hurt myself, but I exhausted myself to the point where I was in so much pain, and then I was fine. That's weird, but.
But do you find that that pressure you put on yourself helped you to excel?
Yeah. I think pressure is a good and bad thing. It can feel overwhelming, but if we didn't have pressure put on ourselves from ourselves or even other people, you probably wouldn't get much further in life, because I think pressure is also like, in a way, a standard we hold for ourselves, which I think is a good thing for growth. So it can be a give and take kind of situation.
There's a line between an expectation for yourself and like what's needed from like a teacher. Like a due date is different than like the expectation that you're putting on that due date.
Gotcha. We're about to go to a break, but I just wanted to address one thing that Kylie said earlier about going into that environment where now suddenly there are all these people and you're doing a presentation. And it's very normal. I don't know if it still is, but one of the greatest fears is not death, it's public speaking. So people are terrified of public speaking. So that's very normal. It's uncomfortable, but normal. We're going to be right back here on the KTSMAZ.com, The Cube.
My name is Leanne Leonard, and I'm the Executive Director of the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank. The mission of the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank as a faith-based nonprofit organization is to serve families and individuals in the Southwest Valley who are hungry, in need, and facing crisis. AFFCB has a heart for collaboration. Our annual events that we do each year are partnerships between local churches, businesses, and community members. We love to see how we can expand our reach by partnering with those businesses and churches in the area who have the same heart for missions that we do. The Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank would not exist without our amazing volunteers and donors. We're so grateful and appreciative to the many people over the last 23 years who have supported through their service of time or their donations, whether monetary or in kind. We have about 50 volunteers a week that come through, and they are the reason that we're able to keep our doors open. If you're interested in finding out more about how you can become a part of the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank, I would encourage you to think about donating your time through volunteering, whether that's at our weekly programs or one of our annual events, or through donation. Both monetary and in-kind donations are welcome and accepted from all over the state of Arizona.
Hi, this is Doug with AC Doctors, and this is another testimonial of one of our satisfied customers.
We were experiencing some issues with our air conditioner not cooling our house properly in the summer heat, and so we called AC Doctors, and they were able to come out quickly and efficiently fix everything and be able to get our house up and running again. What made me the happiest about AC Doctors was the quality and efficiency of their techs as they came into my home. felt they were very trustworthy and they did the job that they were needed to do and were able to get us back up and running. What exceeded my expectations about AC doctors was the value of their work and their competitive price, along with having friendly and capable staff. If someone asked me if they should use AC doctors, I would say absolutely. Their techs and their staff go above and beyond, and their prices are very competitive with anything else that we've seen. I trust AC doctors, and so should you.
We want you to find out for yourselves. Give us a call or find us on our website at theacdoctors.com.
Welcome back to theCUBE here on KTSMAZ.com. While we were on break, we were talking a little bit more about procrastination, and Reese had some things to say.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a strategic procrastinator. It's like it's a combination of prioritizing things in the order that you're going to do them and then not doing them and procrastinating them. Because I'm something that I'm working on is I'm not very good at setting up boundaries, and I'm a yes man, and I'll be like, oh, I can help you with that. Oh yes, I'll join this and I'll do all that. There's a cycle. About once every year, my mom will come home and she'll be like, Reese, what's going on? And I'll be like, I signed up for too many things, but I'll put things in an order. I'll be like, you know what, this due date is this, or this person is flexible on this, and I'll kind of order them, and then I'll just procrastinate it. So it's kind of, it makes me feel a little bit better that I'm like prioritizing. Oh, this is what I'm going to work on first.
I'm procrastinating, but I'm doing it strategically. It's it's kind of okay.
I'm definitely the same way. I did that today, actually. I was doing my school, and then I was like, okay, my mom has a hair appointment. So I was like, I have to get my school done. She has a hair appointment, and then she has to come pick me up so I can come here. And I was like, so I have to get my school done first, right? Did I do my school? No, because I was like, no, I have to eat. I have to eat before I go. Like, of course. Yes. So what did I do? I went and ate. And I was like, okay, now I have to go get ready. School, it'll wait. So I went up and I got ready. And I sat on my bed for a good 15 minutes. And I was like, school, TikTok. So then I procrastinated doing like my makeup. Like I had to do my makeup too. Didn't do my makeup. Went on TikTok instead. Didn't finish my school. And then I finally went and got ready. And then by the time I came downstairs, I had to go. So I have school after this.
Well, I think there's a difference too between prioritizing, which it sounds like is what some of you guys do, like Reese.
Well, I'm just telling myself I'm prioritizing, but in reality, it's
right. It's procrastination. Someone once told me that procrastination is really just anxiety, and I think that's kind of true. Like a lot of people have anxiety about things that they have to do, and one way to avoid it is just not to do it. But then usually what happens is you just create more anxiety for yourself because you spend all this time procrastinating. And then if you're like some people, if it's due the next day and you're staying up, to get it done, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so anxious to get this done. So then you just end up in, an anxiety storm. Perpetual anxiety. So I thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did that yesterday. There was this paper that I was supposed to be writing, and I was so nervous about it and anxious about it because it's a really big deal. So I kind of put off writing it as a whole, and then I got it done, don't worry. But still, I could have gotten it done earlier had I not been procrastinating.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever then, how did you feel about it once you were done? Where you procrastinated, you didn't do it, finally you did it, and then what?
I felt a lot better afterwards. I'm like, oh, finally, I did it. But I also kind of tell myself, you could have done it a little bit earlier. So next time, work on it and be better about keeping your priorities in check and making sure that you're getting stuff done.
I think I can understand too, because I'm a chronic procrastinator, especially when it comes to schoolwork. I will put off a paper to the last minute, but I feel like the pressure helps me get it done. And I just it's something that's really helpful. But I feel like kinesthetically, if I see something, there's a mess in my room or something I've been trying to work on, just pick it up and put it away, or just put it in its place, or clean this now, because just get it over with. So that's been doing something with my hands has been really helpful to just like work with procrastination. Yeah. Baby steps, man. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
Yeah. That's honestly such good advice because I feel like whenever I like get stressed out and like start procrastinating, that's when I do my little like procrastination naps is what I like to call them. I just like crawl into my bed and like go to sleep and like just like don't wake up until like the next day. Like I'll go to sleep at like 4 p.m. like right after I get home from school and won't wake up till like the next day.
I'll do that too.
It's completely normal for me.
It's just something that has really helped me with that is I found this study technique that really helps me. It's called the Pomodoro technique. And you do 25 minutes of productive time, a 5-minute break, 25-5, 25-5, and then you do a 15-minute break. Because I think 25 minutes, that's the perfect amount of time to say, I can sit down and do this amount. And that has been so helpful. And then you can do 25 minutes, I'll read, 25 minutes, I'll write, 25 minutes, I'll do something else. But yeah.
That's actually helpful. Thank you.
No problem. I love it.
That sounds good.
Awesome. Well, talked a lot about procrastination, so let's not procrastinate any longer on talking about some other things that deal with mental health.
Yeah.
Like family, friends, siblings, the clergy, strangers. Anyone want to speak to that?
Well, you know, I think I'm lucky enough that my family really positively impacts my mental health. Same thing with my friends. Friends affecting my mental health.
I can agree with that on the family part. I think that like my family, it's really important to just be close with them because they're really like my backbone. Like if anything ever goes wrong with my friends, like I know like I always have my family. When I was going through a really hard period with my mental health, my family was definitely like my backbone and I leaned on them a lot.
Someone had said earlier about like what you put out is what you get back. And I think about that all the time. And I really love people who make me laugh, or if I can make them laugh, but more if they're funny, because those people really, because when you're laughing, you can't really think about anything else besides that you're laughing. And that always makes me feel better about myself and makes me, I think those relationships really impact me positively.
How about how others think of you? How does that impact you?
Well, you know, I feel very self-aware sometimes of how people think about me or how I may come across. And that's something that I think I'm very anxious about. But in terms of, it's funny because if I am put in like a performance setting, I could care less about what's going on if someone's thinking about me. But if I'm put in like a personal relationship, I kind of start to worry about, oh, what if this doesn't happen? What if I say this? What if I do this? So that's something that makes me kind of anxious. But like, I don't mind making a fool of myself to strangers, which is kind of weird. Like I'll do weird stuff. I was going hiking this morning and I was just like saying weird stuff to my friend really loud and trying to get the other people's attention that we're hiking. But would I do that in a normal situation? Probably not. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah.
I'm such an overthinker. And this is my biggest weakness. Like I always talk to myself. Like I cannot walk into school without like being on my phone. Like I have to be doing something. Like I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing with my arms? Oh my God, I always used to be like, oh my God, I probably look so weird right now. In middle school, it was definitely a struggle because you're still like finding yourself and you don't really know really anything about yourself. And so I just tried to fit in. And then that really accelerated my overthinking.
I can relate to that so much. Like, I feel like over like social media, definitely, I feel like I can like really overthink in different like situations. Like when people are texting you, like I could be like, oh, like what if they meant it this way? Like what if they meant it this way? Like I feel like it's really easy to kind of overthink in situations and maybe have like interpret things differently than like what the person might have been trying to initially get across. And I think that that's definitely like probably like harms some of my relationships just because like I feel like when you overthink things like that too much, like it can really start to like harm your relationships.
Yeah, because you're like assuming.
Yeah.
So when you're walking into school and you're looking at your phone, are you trying to be invisible? Are you trying to not have others see you? Or is the phone a distraction?
I feel like it distracts me from thinking about what others are thinking about me. But like, honestly, like walking into school, no one's actually going to be looking at me and being like, oh my gosh, why is she walking like that? Like, what is she wearing? Like, no one's actually thinking that. And it's really hard to rationalize that in the moment. It's easier said than done. But when I'm on my phone, it's just like, I can twiddle my thumbs and like, I'm actually doing something. So my arms aren't just like dangling when I walk and like, I don't know.
I've noticed that a lot because I don't always feel the pressure to do that. I feel like it's almost just a way that people like need to be disconnected because everybody else is disconnected on their phone. Because I've noticed like at lunch at school, I won't go on my phone, but I look around and literally everybody's on their phone and they're texting each other. And it's so interesting to me that we feel the need to do that. And I don't even know why, but if you guys have anything, like that's really interesting to me because there's so many people around us and we almost just connect with them without really connecting with them through a device. And that is like a scary thing to think about to me.
I think it's interesting that you said that keeping the phone so that you won't have to think about it. Because earlier I was observing while we were getting ready to do the show, you weren't on a phone. Everybody except for one other person was on their phone. But you're just sitting there calm, cool, and collected. So you must feel good in this group. That's good.
Yeah, it's really only school. And I overthink so much, like my anxiety. I create stomach aches, and apparently your like gut is like connected to, like it's like next to the like hormones or like something like that. And that's like why I get stomach aches, because it's literally like my anxiety. Oh, it's so bad.
I get anxious stomach aches too, and headaches. I'll get really bad headaches when I'm anxious.
It feels like butterflies, especially, but like not the good kind of butterflies.
I just anxiously eat. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I get shaky too.
Yes, I will shake.
I'll bite my nails. If I don't have acrylics on, I'll always be biting my nails.
I picked like the skin.
Yeah, your cuticles.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
hiding my nails a little bit because of that.
All right, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back in a few minutes with more of theCUBE on ktsmaz.com.
Hello, my name is Reese Cantu. In this day and age, our communities are uniquely divided. We are politically and ideologically polarized. We have been kept away from our friends and relatives, and that separation follows us into our homes, dividing parents and children. We need theCUBE in order to get over this. This show encourages us to listen to other perspectives. It allows teens to connect with us by seeing that they are not alone. And finally, it helps parents bridge the gap between them and their child by giving them insight into our world. None of this would be possible without your support. So please, help us show our sides of theCUBE. Become a sponsor or advertiser today. Thank you.
You can support theCUBE by purchasing commercial spots during our show, become an individual sponsor, or even be a season title sponsor. You can make a big difference in the lives of our teens. Email advertising at ktsmaz.com or call 602-699-6271. Thank you.
Hi, this is Doug with AC Doctors, and this is another testimonial of one of our satisfied customers.
So I'm a doctor kind of by profession myself, so I understand the importance of expertise and going to the right professional for the right service. AC Doctors exceeded my expectations really just in their service. The technician showed me on his phone how things should work, showed me how things were not working well on my particular unit, and showed the corrections that he would make. They were able to keep my air conditioner unit running smoothly, and I know that here in Arizona that's really important. And so I would want my neighbors and friends to get similar service and similar running air conditioners smoothly and coolly, and AC Doctors can provide that for them. I trust AC Doctors, and so should you.
We want you to find out for yourselves. Give us a call or find us on our website at theacdoctors.com.
Welcome back to theCUBE here on KTSMAZ.com. While we're on break, we were continuing a bit of the conversation about how important it is to you on what others think of you. And then we thought about, why is it important? What does it matter? And I think, Mitra, you had something.
Yeah, I think I used to think a lot about what other people thought of me, because I feel like when you're developing like your character, you're kind of trying on different personalities. You're not really sure who you are, what you like to dress like, the kind of people you like. And I think that's when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to fit in and to take what other people think about us very seriously. And I think it's almost a good thing in some ways, because it's kind of like a social thing. And I feel like you can learn what people think about you. And like, it's very interesting perception to me, because the way we perceive ourselves, I think, is very different than how other people perceive us. And I think when you're not really sure how you perceive yourself, it can be helpful and damaging to take into account what other people think. So I think now that I kind of know personally more who I am, I don't care as much, because I know the kind of people in my circle think how I think of myself, if that makes sense. And I think once you find the kind of people you surround yourself with and you know that they're the right kind of people for you, I think the pressure of thinking what they think of you kind of goes away. And I think that will come with time. But I think it can also be a good thing to care what other people think about you, because if you didn't, then you would never be growing into different things. And I think that's a really cool thing.
Agree? Disagree? What do you think?
Yeah, that was super, super insightful. That's something I hadn't really thought about. Like, I've heard the mantra, and I think we all have, of don't care what anybody thinks ever. But I just, the point that you brought up, like during like developmental stages in your life where you're trying to figure out who you are and caring at that point. I think at that point, I think that was a good point. I also think maybe thinking about middle school, I think that can also be like, where is that developmental stage ending? Because I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think middle school would be an example of a time where maybe caring what other people think, especially if they're negative things, could be maybe a harmful thing. So I guess, I don't know, you brought up there's a line to draw between when to take it into account. There are some times where it's helpful, where you can grow, and there are some times when it's damaging and not helpful. So I guess, how would you guys determine where that line goes?
Well, for me, it definitely was middle school. Like, middle school was my year. And halfway through, so for my middle school, it's 7th and 8th grade. Some people it's 6th, 7th, and 8th, but mine was just 7th and 8th. But I ended up leaving halfway through my 8th grade year because I felt like I had no friends. Like, I had acquaintances, but they still weren't even on the level of acquaintances. They're like less, and that like kind of sucked. But I ended up leaving and I went online, like all online. And for my freshman year, I was like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna try high school. Maybe, like, I definitely thought people didn't like me, but I was like, maybe it'll be different. I'll meet new people, maybe they'll like me. So I went back and I found my clique. Like, I found my group, which was so good for me. And it was like a bunch of choir kids. So it was that group.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just so eye-opening, because now, even though like you shouldn't like do the whole, I don't care what people think. Now I don't care what people think. Like, especially going out in public. I just like, if you want to look at me, or if I think someone's looking at me, I'm like, do it.
And I think and I agree. But I think there's a difference between, caring what people think and being self-aware. which I think they're two different things. Like in public, I care less people think about me. But in middle school too, yeah, like it took, when I finally met, started doing shows and things, I really felt at home. When you start to find where you fit in, it's just the best thing. And you really start to become yourself. Yeah.
I mean, I find it really interesting that you all are saying this happened to you during middle school, because I'm still in middle school. My middle school is 5th through 8th grade. I'm in 8th grade. And I find just how you're saying like you really found yourself during middle school, because I mean, maybe it's just because I'm still in it that I haven't really recognized that I might have found myself or more of who I am. But I do have to say I was able to find a lot of new friends and meet a lot of new people and make new connections. And I think that's something that I was definitely able to do throughout that time.
Yeah, for me, as a freshman, like I just went through middle school. Definitely the hardest stage of my life was 6th through 8th grade. I really dealt with like a lot of bullying, I was really down on myself. I had a really, really low self-esteem. Like I thought that everybody hated me. Like again, like I also was really close to leaving my school in 8th grade because I felt like I had no friends. And honestly, quarantine was really the break that kind of helped me. And also like stay in like school. Like I don't know if I would have been able to keep on going and go through school without quarantine. But honestly, I think that just like learning to love myself is really what helped me. And like learning that what other like people think about me really is not important as long as you love yourself. And that has definitely been just the best advice that I could give anybody out there that's really struggling with self-image, is just try to love yourself. Look in the mirror, tell yourself something that you love about yourself. As cliche as it sounds, it honestly makes all the difference. And since I've kind of stopped caring what other people think, honestly, I've just been so much happier.
I think I love how all you guys are saying like middle school and all that good stuff. I've already done my freshman year of college, and I honestly feel like I'm still not there. Like I don't know. I feel like, but it's also bad because I really don't care what people think. Like I feel like it's gone on for too long. So I really don't care what people think. And it's almost become kind of a toxic trait of mine. I need to start caring about people's feelings more. And I just like, whatever. Like I just don't even process it anymore. And that's awful because it's gone on for so long that I'm just so annoyed at this point that I've just kind of given up.
I feel like I can relate to that a lot too. Because definitely like, I don't think that like I neglect other people's feelings. I just feel like other people's like opinion on me. Like I very much like gotten this like mindset where it's like, okay, you're lost. Like you don't want to be in my life, you're lost. Like you're like obviously like not like serving like a purpose in my life. You're not making me feel better. So I don't know like what you want me to do. Like I don't like know why you want me to like fight to like keep you in my life, if that like makes sense. And I feel like something that I definitely struggled with is like I feel like since I've been hurt so many times before, it's hard for me to like kind of open up and like let other people in. Like I feel like I just have like very much like a very like big like guard up like against like everyone.
Yeah, I found it funny because you had said that too, and it made and then you just brought that up again. I think it'd be really hard to be vulnerable after being put through those circumstances, and yeah, that I could imagine is really, really difficult to deal with, and just being open, and that's something that's so difficult I think for everyone. But even going through those circumstances, I can imagine. And school is so difficult too because everyone is changing. So as much as you are, and it's hard to not compare ourselves to others, I think, especially during that time. Like I still don't know who I am, but because we're all constantly changing, which I think is what makes life interesting. But
so how do you feel like social media then impacts your ability to find your identity or like figure out who you are? Because I think all of you have talked about that's sort of been like the journey that you're on, like figuring out your identity and who you are. So how does social media impact that?
Well, I think one thing is like this was definitely more prominent in middle school with just like people when they would try and kind of like poke at you to like get a reaction out of you. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. How people would just like kind of want to play the mean girl card sometime and like want to poke at you because like they'll know that you'll react. And I think that I had a problem with that because I was very sensitive. So when people would say things to me, it would bother me a lot. And so I would definitely like be like very like rash and like respond really fast, especially like over media. You can't really see the context. So I think that that's really where I went wrong, where it's like I would just respond like really fast, not think about what I was saying, and like be just kind of like rash about it. But yeah, I think that social media can be really toxic because you don't have to deal about like you could be mean to somebody by just like texting them. Like you don't actually have to deal with like seeing them face to face.
Why do you think someone's compelled to be mean to another person? Do they like themselves? Do they love themselves? Do you guys like yourselves? Do you love yourselves?
I like myself now. Kind of.
I mean, I feel like I don't want to get on that, but I do feel like I feel like we also don't realize that maybe sometimes people aren't meaning to be mean. And really that just comes across as mean, and social media is where it's wrong because you take it a certain way that you shouldn't have taken it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's difficult when it's written in text and not, you
Face
can't
to
hear
face.
inflection, you can't see the face, you can't see the reality of what's going on. Well, we still have more to talk about. We're going to be right back here on theCUBE on ktsmaz.com in just a few minutes.
Hi, this is Doug with AC Doctors, and this is another testimonial of one of our satisfied customers.
My expectations were an open mind, an open book. I wasn't sure because I still was thinking about the other company that I had been with before. So when they came in and their efficiency, their professionalism was so awesome, my expectations were definitely met. From the first call that I make into their call center to the very end of my service, it has definitely been a great journey because every part has been very simple and easy. The main reason that I would recommend AC Doctors is professionalism, efficiency, dependability, and just the friendliness of their staff. I trust AC Doctors, and so should you.
We want you to find out for yourselves. Give us a call or find us on our website at theacdoctors.com.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Welcome back to theCUBE here on ktsmaz.com. While we were on break, we were talking, carrying on the conversation, and Lachlan had something that she wanted to say about social media and its impact.
Yeah, so I just think it's so important to remember not to use social media as your therapist. I see so many every day, and I'm so guilty of this, but like on private stories on Snapchat especially. Oh my goodness, I'll literally overshare so much stuff, acting like it's my therapist, but it's literally social media, and that's not good.
So what's not good about it?
Using it as a way to vent when it's really like you should be doing that like to a family member, to a friend, even though like they're gonna see that. Social media is not the way to go.
But I feel like private stories are kind of different because you're selecting who you're venting to, and it's kind of an indirect way of getting that information out. I don't know, but I understand where you're coming from, especially if it's a lot of people. But if it's a small private story with like really close friends. Like,
So is it sort of a way, because you said you put things on social media, you talk about...
I mean, I've done that on my private story a couple of times, and I just like get scared that some people will take it as an attention like as attention seeking, and that's like a really big fear of mine. And it actually happened last night where I posted something and I was like, oh, actually, I don't want people to think I'm asking for attention, so I deleted it. But it was everything. If it ever happens, it's always on my private story, so you can like select who's on there. It's usually just my closest friends.
Yeah, it's social media is tough because you can say the sky is blue on social media and someone's going to respond to you that why don't you like ice cream? You know, and that may seem the extreme, but I have said complete things on social media and people have misinterpreted it completely and never said anything like that. So it probably is a good practice. But did it make you feel good? I mean, did it get it out? Does it feel good to talk about what's inside of you?
It feels good to talk about what's inside of you, but you need to know time and place.
Well, sure, but the key there is getting it out, talking about it. If you don't have a therapist, anybody have a therapist? I mean, you know, it works for some. It may not work for all. But what do you do for self-care in situations when you're feeling down? What can you tell the folks at home on how you cope? We have just a few minutes more, and we've talked a lot about a lot of things. But let's leave them with something. How do you take care of yourself? We talked earlier about liking yourself, loving yourself. It starts with you. What else?
Well, kind of different, but also similar to Lachlan. If I'm going through something, or if I just have a lot going on in my head that's making me anxious or stressed, I'll take my voice memos on your phone and I'll almost like record what I'm thinking, like a podcast. And that's really helpful to kind of get it out, or I'll write it down in my notes app because then I'm getting it out, or journaling it, something like that. And I feel like that's very helpful because then everything that's going on in here kind of goes onto another little aspect and it's still private. And then that way I'm able to really control what I'm thinking about. And it makes me feel better. It makes me feel a lot more relieved, and like a bunch of things going on have just kind of come out.
I do that too, where like you'll like write down like rants and stuff and like put them in your notes and like save them. It just like, it's like a good way to like, I feel like just like kind of get everything out, like everything that's like been on like your heart and like on your mind. You can just kind of finally get it all out, like get it out on paper. One of my like bad coping I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's kind of like using social media as my therapist. But like on like my like spam TikTok, I like think that I'm funny and I'll like make like dark humor jokes, like joking about like my past trauma and stuff. I don't know. I think I'm funny, but
I think mine is either like releasing it through dance is very good for me, or in a maybe not so good way for other people, but for me it helps listening to music is kind of a good way to distract and think about another storyline from somebody's perspective, because sometimes you need to give your brain a break from yourself.
I think about that. That's what I was going to say too about music. I think that music and food are the only two things that can like bring back memories for us. So those are always really helpful for me in terms of maybe going back to an album that I really like, or listening to a podcast or not a podcast, but a playlist from a certain time that I may have made. Like that's always a really nice reminder. Same with food. Oh my gosh, what a helpful thing to have. But I also feel like creativity is a really good outlet. Sometimes it doesn't really feel like an outlet for me, but it's a good thing to do kinesthetically.
So can you elaborate on food and it being a helpful thing? Like that can be sometimes not a good thing.
Well, I really love food. It always makes me feel good. I have a healthy relationship with food.
And have you ever heard of comfort food?
Yes, comfort food. Like that's what I love, and I just think food brings people together. It has memories associated with it. It's just, and my family loves food, and I love food, and kind of need it. So,
well, I'm sort of getting the feeling it's like finding things that you love that can pull you back into a place of center and good feeling.
Yeah, I was gonna say music, comfort food. And my go-to is crying.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, crying is so good. Like it actually is so healthy to release your emotions, and people don't normalize crying because they're like, I don't know. It's just so important to get it out.
Yeah, and I have a hard time relating to a lot of these things because I am very much a problem solve before getting upset kind of person, and that's like, I don't know, and just taking the passivity out of feelings, like I don't wait to have a good day. Like I'm not like, I hope tomorrow is going to be a good day. Like I decide, like just putting myself in the driver's seat. And it's just, I'm problem solving the best that I can. And if it's out of my control, like this, like it helped. I think of auditions. This is kind of this, like after an audition, I immediately forget absolutely everything about the audition. And I decide that I'm going to do that because I'm like, you know what, it's out of my control. I can't, there's not a ton of problem solving I can do with that. And I mean, I'm not a crier either. And I think it's so, like, I wish that I could cry. Like, I think I totally agree with you that that's something that, I don't know, I think it's something that people should be thankful that they can do. Because, I mean, I just can't really do it. So it just takes a lot of energy. You know what? I can't let it out that way. So I just have to problem solve.
Honestly, when I'm sad, my setup is I eat Ben & Jerry's half-baked ice cream. I watch Vampire Diaries, FaceTime my best friend, and listen to old Taylor Swift and cry to it.
Oh, I wish.
That's a nice plan.
That is my plan.
Well, it's important, whatever it takes. And there's nothing, I don't think there's anything wrong with not crying. And there, as well as there's nothing wrong with crying. You know, people relate to things in different ways. It's good either way. And I really love that you problem solve before you get to a place where you need to repair. So that's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for your perspectives. We're about to take a break. Welcome. We'll be right back on theCUBE here on KTSMAZ.com.
Awkward. Do I look familiar? I should. You might remember me from here. Here. Or maybe even here.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
It can actually be a perfect moment to reach out to a friend and ask if they're okay if they seem down.
Doesn't matter how you say it.
You all right?
Everything's okay?
G.
You all right, girl?
You cool?
You bugging dog. Just show you're there for them.
Go on, Kelly. Seize the awkward.
Hey, you haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back to theCUBE. As we wrap up today's show, we'd like to leave you with this.
We know that this is a challenging time for everyone, and we know that when life gets overwhelming, it's important to know where to reach out for help. If you or someone you know needs professional care, please call one of the numbers on your screen. Help is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for free. Remember that, despite what's going on in the world today, you are never alone.
That's right. You're never alone. There's help out there. Thank you for joining us today here on theCUBE. We'll be back every Saturday at 1 p.m. But don't worry, if you miss us on Saturday, you can see every episode on demand anytime at ktsmaz.com. Remember, try to understand the other person's side of the cube. You may be surprised at what you'll learn. We'll see you here next week. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name is Shaylee Flanagan. Being a teenager isn't easy. Hearing fellow teens discuss current and relatable topics can help teens realize that they aren't alone. And believe me, feeling alone is common these days. I, for one, have been so isolated due to the quarantine. The Cube makes it easy for teens to feel connected to each other, even while keeping an acceptable social distance. We need to help spread the word about this important talk show. Becoming a sponsor for the Cube would make it possible for our show to connect with teens all over the country. Please consider sponsoring our show and advertising your company or product at the same time. Teens need this connection now more than ever. Thank you.
You can support theCUBE by purchasing commercial spots during our show, become an individual sponsor, or even be a season title sponsor. You can make a big difference in the lives of our teens. Email advertising at ktsmaz.com or call 602-699-6271. Thank you.